Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for tonight's episode. First of all, I would just like to apologize to all of you who have been waiting so patiently for new material. It has been quite some time since I've put anything out, and that's just honestly because I needed to take a mental health break. Those of you who know me know that for my day job, I work in healthcare, and it's been one hell of a ride with this past year, and it's still ongoing, of course, with this BS of a virus that's still spreading. But I genuinely do appreciate every single one of you, and I hope that you and your family has been well during this time, during this crazy time. And another thing is, I do see all of the comments that come in on my videos, and I'll try to respond whenever I can, and I apologize if I don't get to you. It's nothing personal. Life is crazy, and I know that everyone is going through a tough time right now. So, thank you for being so patient with me, like I said. And tonight, I'll be giving you guys something special. Tonight, I am honored to narrate a story by none other than my Yang with MYX in the Dark. And I'm sure you guys already know of her, but if you don't, please check out her channel and check out her podcast. She's doing great. She has great content. She's been showing me love and support from my beginnings of when I put up my first stories. So I hope that you guys take the time and show her the same respect that you've shown me. So she had asked me to see if I would like to help her on a personal project of hers. This story that I'm about to tell is actually a personal story of an experience that she had of her own. For the younger generation, or for the ones that don't know, sometimes retelling your own traumatizing experiences aloud is frowned upon. This is because our Hmong people believe that by doing so, that you could possibly reopen doorways, gates, for these past spirits, demons, to re-enter your place of home. Evil entities feed off of fear, and the moment that they even get a little taste of this, they will leech off of every bit of it and become stronger. So again, I advise you that these entities are very real, and they are nothing to be messed with. For example, one of my close friends, he has his own podcast where he tells his own scary stories of personal experiences. And when he chose to record and air one of his most traumatizing events that he had happen to him, after it aired, he started re-experiencing the same things. And from his description, it was this creepy looking lady with, that long black hair, but she seemed like a witch with long black nails, like sharp ass nails, and she would torment him in his dreams and give him night terrors. And he had rid of her, but after a few years later, and then having his podcast, he chose to retell that story out loud. The entity came back, and I have not had a chance to really check in with my buddy about the situation and if it's still ongoing. But like I said, it's very serious business. It's very real. Please take caution if you choose to tell your own personal stories out loud, especially if it's late, because spirits can hear, and like I said, they feed off of fear. But this is content and material made for a separate video, and it's something that I hope to get together to kind of touch on that a bit more in the future. But For tonight's episode, this is actually part 2 to a story by MYX in the Dark called Are We Taking Them Home? And if you have not heard part 1, please pause this video, pause this clip, and go over to her channel to listen to part 1 first, and then come back here to my channel to continue the story. And so that everything makes sense. So please, sit back, relax, grab a snack, a drink, a partner, a blanket, whatever you need. And let's begin. My husband and I were moving out of our apartment to a new home. It just so happens that his parents were moving the same time that we were moving too. My husband's parents live out of state. We got everything done, and a week later, I found out that my husband had to fly out to help his parents move too. So we postponed our house cleansing date with my dad to a time when my husband would be back so we could both be here. When Hmong folks cleanse an area, they use a thin branch of leaves to sweep every corner in every room where you live. They will say a blessing while doing so. At the end of the cleanse, you must dispose of the branch, symbolizing tossing away any negative energy or bad spirits that may have been left behind from the previous tenants. My husband was going to be gone for at least 2 or 3 weeks. His parents are older, so they needed a lot of help moving. They also needed help setting up the internet, TV services, electricity, all of the above. If you've ever moved, you get the drill. It's a lot of work. This isn't the first time that he is visiting his parents for more than a week, so it was fine. We also live with my little sister-in-law. Both she and I are working or learning from home, so we had each other's company. Our new place was a townhome located in a pretty quiet neighborhood. It had 2 floors and a garage. There were 2 bedrooms on the second floor. The living room and the kitchen was on the first floor. Our garage was attached to the kitchen. The thing about the new place is that an elderly lady died in the garage due to a heart attack. Her sisters found her, and eventually they all moved out of the home. We weren't supposed to get this unit. There happened to be a switch up, and it became the only unit open, so we had to take it. I am the type of person who gets paranoid easily, especially because I tell scary stories. Knowing this little bit of information about this older lady always made me a bit jumpy at this new place. Anyway, with us being in a new home for only a week, and my husband being gone right after that first week, I felt extra lonely. I wasn't sad or anything. I just hung out a lot by myself and didn't really have people to conversate with. My little sister-in-law and I do not really click, probably due to age differences. We're pretty neutral with each other and we'll talk here and there, but for the most part, she likes to hang out in her room. That left me by myself downstairs in the living room a lot. It's probably just me being paranoid, but throughout the time that my husband was gone, I kept sensing an emptiness around. I kept seeing little glitches at the corner of my eyes. It's weird, I can't quite explain it. I try to trick my mind that it was probably just a new place, and I'm just not quite used to it yet. I should also mention that my husband and I are pregnant with our first baby. Some people believe that pregnant ladies are more prone to experiencing paranormal activities because their bodies are in a vulnerable state. I'm sure there is a lot of hormonal stuff going on as well. I was also high in anxiety with visits to the doctor's office and trying to balance my work at the same time. I also found out that I had a few spikes of high blood pressure that had to be monitored so that my baby can be safe. There's a lot going on. Anyway, one week I decided to have my little niece and nephew over to make the house seem a little warmer. They did their distance learning with me downstairs in the living room. Everything was fine when all of a sudden I heard this super loud crash coming from the garage. Our garage is attached to the kitchen. We store our big pots and pans in the garage. I looked at my niece and nephew to ask if they heard that. To my surprise, they both answered, "No." It was such a loud crash. I had no idea why they did not hear it. So I called my sister-in-law down for us to go check it out. I know you're thinking it's the old lady who died in the garage, but my actual first thoughts were that I hoped that it wasn't an intruder. I was more afraid of that than anything. My sister-in-law and I opened the garage door, turned on the lights, and on the ground was a lid to one of the big pots. If you've gone to a Hmong gathering, you may know what these big pots look like. They're about 2 feet wide and 1.5 feet tall. The lid to the pot was heavy and fits perfectly on top of the pot and cannot slip off even when tilted. There was no way it could have flipped off and fell down on its own. That's when I started to get even more paranoid. But of course, I didn't let it show because I am supposed to be the adult in the house. I carried on the week like normal. My niece and nephew went home that Friday after school. When they left, I felt empty again. I assumed that it was just me missing my husband. I tried to distract myself by cooking, letting the TV run so that it wasn't so quiet, playing music, talking to Alexa, you know, the virtual assistant on the smart speakers. I did a lot of things. One night, I don't know why, but I was sitting in my bedroom and I felt this deep, overwhelming fear. And it frightened me, so I started crying. When I called my husband, I couldn't explain to him why I was crying or why I was scared. All I knew was that I was really scared. By the end of the call, I felt a little better, and we were convinced that I was probably worried about my baby appointments. I was stressed about teaching online. I probably missed my husband a lot. And knowing the information about the lady who passed away in the garage probably scared me a little. Seeing that I was clearly stressed out at home, my mother-in-law ordered my husband to fly home that weekend, and for us to Waneng, just in case. And Waneng ritual is performed by a shaman for many reasons. In our case, my mother-in-law wanted to make sure that I was okay, especially with a new baby coming. My husband's parents asked my parents to help at this ritual since they could not be there. It was a small event. We didn't invite a lot of people. My parents hired our family shaman to perform the ritual. The main goal was to figure out if there was anything dangerous around me that caused me to feel scared. I helped the shaman set up her altar at our place, and it began. She had my husband and I sit at her shaman bench while she said a few words. Although I tried to listen to what she was saying, I didn't understand a lot of what she was saying. It was something along the lines of asking guardians to watch and protect us from danger. She circled us with her iron sword. When she was done, she asked us to cross the sword. Unfortunately, I don't know the significance of this. I noticed her preparing to enter the spiritual world. She covered her face with this red cloth so that she could see the spiritual world. The ritual went on for some time when she, all of a sudden, jumped onto the bench and everything went quiet. She switched back and forth between speaking in tongues and speaking in Hmong. Me being my Americanized self, didn't think to listen to what she was saying. At this time, I also happened to be sitting close by with my mom. I was giving her a shoulder massage. All of a sudden, my mom said in Hmong to the shaman, "Ask who it is." That alerted my ears to listen. The shaman was yelling in the air for something to stop bothering me, and that it is not its place, and that it needed to leave. At this exact moment, the shaman's assistant stood up and started to wave incense sticks around the room. He said a few blessings and asked someone to open the front door. It looked like he was chasing something out our door. My mom whispered to me that the shaman said something has been following me. They don't know who it is, and she is negotiating with it to go away. I assume they successfully chased it out because the shaman transitioned to my husband next. His situation is a little different from mine and less severe, so I won't mention it. The rest of the ritual went accordingly. My parents would not tell me what the shaman saw. I wonder if it's a superstitious thing. I don't think I will get to know. I have some theories though. If you listen to my podcast, I have an episode called "Are We Taking Them Home?" In this episode, I mention weird things that have been happening around me since the day my husband and I left a Jean-Mont event. Remember, a Jean-Mont event is basically when a family comes together to plan a funeral after someone passes. One of the weird things that happened was that while I was driving home that night, my husband asked me if we were taking the people in the back of my car home. My husband was half asleep at that time, and there was absolutely no one in the car except us. I'm not going to explain the whole story again. You can find that episode if you're interested. There's another part to this story that I have not told yet. There was this one time we had a couple of friends over for some drinks, and I guess you can say everyone had a bit too much. I had my friends sober up and leave for the night. I usually fix a late snack for us to eat after a night of drinking. It was just me and my husband now. All of a sudden, he asked me, "Do you ever think about dying?" I shook my head no, not knowing where this conversation was going to go. And then he said, "Well, you're next." At this point, I was pretty tired, so I decided that we were just going to go to bed. The strange thing about all of this was that, for some reason, he didn't seem like himself. He seemed almost possessed. We were in our room. I was fixing our bed when all of a sudden he mentions that there is a ghost lady in the room who wants to make trouble. I shrugged it off and told him to go to sleep. We never really talked about it after that night. I am reflecting on our relationship, and we are pretty content with each other. We barely argue. Our arguments are usually over silly couple things like what to eat for dinner or who is going to take out the trash. Could it be that whatever was following me is this ghost lady that my husband mentioned was trying to create trouble? Maybe it's that old lady that died in the garage. Maybe it's something different. Maybe me telling ghost stories is attracting spirits my way. Maybe it's just all a coincidence and everything is going to be just fine. To be continued, I guess.